So, got the check valve in there, and we're still not producing vacuum. We're producing more than we were, put it that way. Um, but and I've traced down, looking for vacuum leaks. But I checked the vacuum that the pump was putting out right here, and idling, it's not really putting out anything. You race it up to like 3,000 RPMs, and it'll pump down to about 23, and it holds there, so that the new check valve's working. And that proves that we don't have a leak in this line right there, because it'll hold that 23 inches of vacuum. So what we've got is a pump that's just barely pumping. So I'm going to go ahead and I think pull this pump out of here, and I'm not real sure how hard it's going to be to get it out of here. And I figure I got nothing to lose on it. What we're going to try to do, you can't get kits for these. You can get kits for the older ones, but not for these. So what I'm hoping is that I can maybe take it apart, and maybe it will, maybe it's just gummed up with oil, and we can clean it up, put it back together, and make it work. But I don't know if that's going to work or not. So I think, to make this easier to get out, I think I'm going to undo the upper radiator hose, and I will I need to look and see what the coolant looks like in it anyway. Undo the upper radiator hose and put the and probably pull the fan off and the fan shroud, and that'll give me a lot more room to work. I'll probably take the power steering hose off, or power steering belt off, and we'll kind of proceed from there. But if we can't clean this one up and make it work, we're going to end up having to buy one. So first step is just try to make this one work. So let's get started on it. Now that looks better. So what we've got now is pulled the upper radiator hose off, undid the fan clutch, pulled the fan out, pulled the radiator shroud out, pulled this vacuum tube out, and power steering hose. I'll make a couple notes here. One, love the Mercedes hood, which will stand straight up. Two, I love the system that they have for tightening belts. Toyota, I know a lot of Toyota, I think Mitsubishi uses it, a few other manufacturers, and I don't know why every manufacturer that has V-belts doesn't use this system, because it really is nice. So what you've got is, of course, slotted bolts like you would in any system. You've got a slotted bolt here you got to loosen up, slotted bolt here, and then this one's a pivot, so you just loosen that one a little bit. But instead of having to get something to pry with or whatever, they have an adjustment bolt, and that bolt is what pulls up tension on the pump. So by tightening that bolt, you're pulling the pump up. So you can tighten that bolt and get your belt tension just like you want it, and then tighten up your pivot bolt and your two slotted bolts. And I think they use the same system on the alternator. Just a really good system. It beats trying to have something to pry with, to pull tension on the belt, then with your other hand you know, tightening it down. Just a good system. But this thing was full of mostly water, so it's a good thing we went ahead and got the coolant, or got the water out of it. The fan clutch bolts, somebody just way over tightened, and I thought I was gonna have to go grind a wrench because they were too tight for an open end wrench. But I grabbed this cheap Harbor Freight wrench, which is a little bit thinner here, and it was able to actually get the boxed in on, it was tight, but I got the boxed in on the bolts, and then used this 11mm as a cheater on the end of this, and broke them loose. So that worked out well. And then just once I broke them loose, I used the open end to get them loose. But so now we kind of got everything out of our way. We're gonna pull up on this pump, kind of gets it up out of the way, and now we've got room to work, and we're not trying to fight all this stuff that was in our way. You could have gotten it unbolted, but I don't know if you could get it out without at least taking the fan and the shroud off, and of course this, and you could have, well, I don't think we undid anything that we didn't have to, basically. So here we go. Let's dang, we're almost at top dead center. Look at that. Water pump looks good on it. You know, I couldn't get any slop in it. I don't know why they had water in it. You know, there's no, it doesn't seem to burn any, it shows no evidence of a head gasket leak is what I'm getting at. And it, as far as I can tell, it doesn't have any water leaks. I haven't seen any, so not sure why, but I guess they did. It's possible they had something off, or maybe they replaced a hose or something, I don't know. It looks like somebody did put a thermostat or something in it at one time, because they really, I don't know what they got going on there, but that does not look right with that bolt. So we're gonna have to investigate that at some time. I don't know if they stripped, I'm guessing they stripped that out probably. We've got a hose in here right there that doesn't look all that great, and the end of that one doesn't look that great. Come on, focus. Yeah, so you can see how bloated that is. So I think we're gonna have to see if we can, what we may do is, I have no idea if this booster pump works, but what we might do is just bypass it. I'm guessing that that's the mono valve up there, and that controls the heater. I bet the mono valve isn't working, and it's stuck open, and that's why they put a shut-off valve here, so they can shut off the hot air. And it's probably easier to put it here than over at the mono valve. So, all right, let's. I think these are 5 or 6mm. I think they're. I don't know. They're either 5 or 6. We'll get all those bolts out and see if we can get the pump off. All right, we have success. So there's down in there, and it's actually not as dirty as I thought it would be down in the bottom of this motor. But I mean, it's definitely dirty, but it's not as bad. So all of them except for the very bottom and the left side I could get with this little 3/8 5mm. What would really make this easy is a long 5mm. I did not have one, so I ended up using an Allen wrench, and that bottom one is really difficult. It's doable. What you can do what would probably make it a little easier is if the AC belt was off. Didn't really feel like taking it off right now, but that would make the job easier. And but like I said, I didn't feel like doing it, so we've got it off. We're gonna take this cover off and see what this thing looks like inside. I did find out why they had water in it. You can see this little JB Weld hack job, or well, it's not JB Weld because it's darker than JB Weld, but they did something there. I guess we'll see. It doesn't appear to be leaking, but you can see where it has leaked, and we'll need to address that. Probably go ahead. I was going to reinforce this radiator because they're bad about breaking, and now it's not worth doing anything with, so it looks like we'll be in the market for a new radiator, but it's going to stay in here until we get other things working, like brakes. So chances are we'll get it back together, and if we can get good brakes on it, then I'm going to proceed further and we'll start ordering a bunch of parts, probably all new hoses, all new belts, all that kind of stuff. So the good news on this pump is they're real bad about this bearing here failing, and this one, the bearings are still nice and smooth, and from what I can tell, there's no slop in here. So that's two good positives about it, and we're gonna see if we can get this thing apart and see if we can make it work. So at least, you know, it didn't spit. What happens is when that bearing goes bad, they drop down in the timing train, and the little cam right there looks to be in good shape as well, so that's good. So let me take this stuff over to the truck. We'll take a screwdriver and we're going to take the top off of this thing.